Hello, my name's Becky Safe. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to do a full rundown of all of the different techniques, or as many as I can get into this video, of ways in which you can make your sounds wider in the stereo field. As always, the timestamps are below so that you can skip back and forth to your favorite technique. And before we get into the video, I just want to say a huge shout out and thank you to the incredible feedback that I've been getting on the newsletter. To those of you that are signed up through my website, thank you so much for the amazing comments. I'm hugely passionate about helping you not only develop your skills, but also develop your mindset, because at the center of your ambitions and dreams for this life in music is you. And so in this newsletter that I send out, I share with you quotes, resources, teachings, personal stories from myself. I have spent many years now doing growth mindset and self-development, and now I can share that wisdom with you to help you grow as a person, maximize your skills both creatively and mentally, because we all know that life happens and it will continue to happen, and more often than not, music takes a back seat when that happens. So if you'd like to join the community and get the newsletter delivered to your inbox, then check my website below, sign up, no strings attached. You can unsubscribe at any time. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again for the amazing feedback, because it's been really rewarding. I'll tell you that. It's been really rewarding. So in the newsletter, it's about mindset, but on here we are talking about education and how to get your sounds wider in the stereo mix. My friends, let's get into it. So here we have Serum in Ableton, and Serum is one of the best plugins to do so much with regards to stereo width. And the first one that I want to show you is Unison. So in this wavetable here, we have one copy of this wave. By increasing the unison, which is this box here, if you increase the unison, what you're doing is you're copying the number of signals. So this is one signal in this window, but by increasing the unison, we're increasing that to 2 copies of the same signal. Increase it by 3, it's now 3 copies of the same signal. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like from 1 wave up to 16 waves. Things to note when you're doing detune: when you increase the voices, you're copying them and they're actually slightly detuned apart, and this detune control here will bring that detune closer together or further apart. And you can hear that phasing moving between the waves as we're increasing the detune, so you might not want it to be so far apart. It sounds a bit nasty. The other thing to note is odd numbers have a wave in the middle and even numbers have a wave either side in the stereo field. So if you're wanting to maintain that mono voice in the middle, then pick yourself a odd number, because you can see here how we have a wave in the middle, and when you have 6, you have a wave either side of the central image. One more thing to note when you're doing Unison: this is also present in Vital. In the global tab, you have more control here over the width of your unison. So say we want to do 6 voices, we've detuned them together, but now we want to go into the global and just bring that image a little bit more central again. We bring the width down. So that's just another way to control that stereo image and maintain it to how you want. If you're getting something out of this video already, then thank you, and please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me to help you, and it helps the channel grow, and it gets me to continue making more content like this for you. Let's stay in Serum. We're going to bring this down to 1 wave in our oscillator, and into the effects tab we have hyper dimension. The hyper on the left is a chorus style effect, which we'll get into chorus a little bit later on, and you can take this from 1 up to 7 voices. So by keeping the mix down on 0 on the dimension, we're not actually affecting it with dimension, and we can now listen to how the hyper is affecting the signal. So we have a singular voice here in oscillator 1 onto the effects tab, and let's blend in the hyper. Again, you have a unison control, so you could increase the voices here, and that's obviously going to add more width to the image. Deactivate the hyper, and the dimension is a pseudo stereo effect. So this is where you take the voices and you copy them and slightly delay them. like to mention at this point that the most common pseudo-stereo effect is the Haas effect. If you've not heard of Haas before, no, it's not an avocado. It is an avocado. It's not a nice one. It gives the listener an illusion that there is some stereo delay happening, and what our brains do is if we hear something that has a tiny little bit of delay between the left and the right signal, we see that as a stereo image. As long as that delay is not too long, less than around 40 milliseconds, and between 3 and 10 milliseconds is a nice sweet spot. Anything more than that and the brain is going to perceive that as a delay, rather than the same signal coming to you at just minute, tiny little intervals. So one Haas plugin is from Kilohertz. I love using this because it's just really easy to use on the UI. And here you have your delay control, and it's set to 5 milliseconds. So we could use this lead sound and increase or decrease the delay to taste. And you'll hear, especially if you have headphones on, the Haas effect coming into play. So I'm just going to bypass this for the moment and then enable it. So you can hear that when we increase it to more than 40 milliseconds, it starts to sound like a delay. So that's the delay, not the Haas effect. Sample delay. Ta-da! So, sample delay. Reduce the feedback on your delay plugin. Increase the dry wet to 100%. Disable the link so that now you can attenuate the left independently from the right. Disable the sync. And now we have our millisecond time controls. So we can bring one of them down to 1 millisecond, and we can start to introduce some sample delay between the left and the right image. One of my favorite ways to get a wider or perceived wideness in a sound is using mid-side EQ. Ableton has that in the EQ8. I'm just going to show you a technique in Pro Q3 so that we can visually see what's happening. So let's just create a high pass filter, and we're going to stereo place this now in the side. So everything on the left is in the mid. If you wanted to also high pass the low end, you could do it like this, and we could then start to boost in the sides a little bit more than in the mids. And in essence, what we're doing is we're pushing up the side image of the stereo field. So this is not going to work on a mono signal because you have no side information. This is only going to work on a sound that already has stereo content. What you're doing basically is you're amplifying, you're making that more present in the mix. Ableton's parametric EQ, if you don't have access to Pro Q3, you drop down here, mid-side mode, and then you do the same by editing the mid and the side independently. So this is a side boost, just as we did before with Pro Q3. And here is the mid band. So you can do exactly the same thing using EQ8. We've now come to the point in the video where I would love to kindly ask you to press the like button. It takes 1 millisecond, not even that. It's a Haas effect of time in your life to press the like button and help a brother out and get this video out there on YouTube. I'm sure you can because you clicked on the video, so I'm sure you can. Press the like. Previously, we mentioned the chorus, and chorus is part of a group of time-based effects. So you may have heard of things like reverb, delays, echoes, phasers, flanges, anything that manipulates the left-right image in terms of time or introduces a delay or an echo is going to give you the impression of a stereo field. It's going to add stuff into the stereo image. I'm not going to go into all of the effects, but I've just listed them all there, so now you know. But let's go into Vital and we will look at chorus. So let's have a listen to what chorus is doing to the mix. So we've got 16 voices there beating at a 4/1 frequency. You could also introduce feedback. And again, this is a lot of bouncing around in the stereo image. So you have things like delay. So delay is quite a long time between the copies or the repetitions of the sound. And then a shorter version would be a reverb. So a reverb is really, really short copies of the sound together, and this gives you a sense of space. You'll also notice here that when we're adding reverb, we're actually taking the sound not only out of the center of the image, but we're also pushing it back in the stereo field. And there's one thing that I'm going to mention at the end of the video that is really key to keep in mind when you're doing any stereo processing. It is vital. Excuse the pun. Hard panning, contrasting but similar sounds will give you the impression of width. And this actually happens when you double track vocals. If a singer sings a line and then they sing the same line and you hard pan them left and right, it's going to be using the same voice, the same words, but the tonality, the inflection, the strength, the delivery, it's all just going to be minutely different. So it's the same, exactly the same thing. It just gives you the impression that there's more than one voice. And you can do that with other instruments as well. So here I have some recordings that I did of my family clapping. And so what I'm going to do is just hard pan one of them left and hard pan one of them right. We bring them both in the middle, you have a much more mono image. Hard pan left and right, and you get that perceived sense of stereo width. Creating differences between the left and right channels does not only have to be to do with introducing time delay, you could also introduce pitch variations. So here I have a hi-hat loop and I have Microshift on a return channel, and I'm going to introduce some pitch variations up in the upper frequencies, and you also have a detune knob, and you could change the delay between those pitch variations as well if you want them tight or loose. This is a great plugin from Sound Toys. I love this. All of my recommended plugins are below in the description as well if you want to check them out. So we're getting stereo imaging there from using those pitch variations. I also go into this in my how to make your claps wider video, but I do it using an instrument rack in Ableton and the Simpler by adding in claps, and then loads of other techniques on how to get your claps wide in that video as well. It is linked above, hopefully. Finally, really important to remember that when you're panning instruments left and right and then you collapse them to mono, you could potentially lose the dynamics of key elements in your music. So continually check that your mix is collapsing to mono and that you are keeping any of the sounds that you've been stereoizing. Make sure that you're keeping them in that mono image so that when your track plays on mono compatible sound systems, it actually sounds like how you produced it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any tips on how to get your sounds wider in the mix, then please leave them in the comment below, as well as subscribing and liking. And don't forget to sign up to the newsletter. Again, thank you so much to everybody that gave me incredible feedback, especially after the last one. It really means a lot. My name's Becky Safe, and I will see you for another video. Bye!